Commander Vexery stood silently in the observation chamber. The room was dark, lit only by the soft blue lights of the data screens. He watched Earth closely, could not stop thinking about what they had seen. Those strong, fast, four-legged creatures that humans called dogs. They looked like monsters, like hunters, but they were not wild. They listened. They protected. They played. They gave love and loyalty without asking for anything back. "It does not make sense," Vexery whispered. Tali was beside him, eyes wide and full of questions. Why would any living thing risk its life for another? The research screens played more footage. They showed dogs running into burning buildings. Dogs sniffing through earthquake ruins to find people still alive. Dogs staying by the sides of sad or lonely humans, doing nothing except giving quiet company. "I feel something in my chest," Tali said softly. "A tight feeling, like sadness and happiness at the same time." Commander Vexery nodded. "That is called emotion." Their team was trained to study, not to feel. But this was different. They had watched battles between species. They had seen stars explode and empires fall. But nothing had ever made them feel this much. On one screen, they watched a dog sit beside a coffin. The human beside it wept. The dog did not move, did not bark. It simply rested its head on the wood, its eyes full of sorrow. Tali covered her mouth. "They grieve." Another video showed a dog at a hospital. It placed its paw on a patient's bed, its eyes soft and kind. The human smiled weakly and whispered, "Good boy." "It helps him heal," Vexery said, "not with medicine, but with presence." The Zinther could not believe what they were. Seeing these animals were not just protectors, they were family, they were friends. Some wore uniforms, some had medals. Others simply had names. They saw a golden dog in a police vest chase a thief through a busy street. It dodged cars, leapt fences, and tackled the thief until help came. People clapped. A child nearby shouted, "He's my hero." Another screen showed a soldier in a wheelchair rolling through a park. His dog walked beside him, alert and proud, wearing a vest that read "Service Companion." Tali leaned closer. "The humans say dogs are not just animals. They are part of the heart." Vexery stepped back, shocked. Part of the heart? What kind of species gives a piece of their heart to a beast? But deep inside, he understood. These monsters were not monsters at all. They were more human than many creatures with two legs. Their strength came not only from muscles, but from love. Suddenly, the room changed. The alert lights blinked red. New footage received, the ship's AI announced. From Earth, war zone. Everyone turned. On the screen, explosions shook the ground. Soldiers shouted. Smoke filled the air. Through the chaos, one thing stood out. A dog, black, small, wounded, ran through gunfire. It carried something in its mouth, a bag of medicine. Bullets flew. The dog didn't stop. It reached the soldier, dropped the bag, and collapsed beside him, tail still wagging. The soldier wept and shouted, "Stay with me, buddy. You're my hero." The whole room was silent. No one could speak. Tali wiped her eyes. They don't care about danger. They only care about the ones they love. Commander Vexery turned away from the screen, felt something heavy in his chest. He had come to study monsters. Instead, he had found bravery, loyalty, pure love. He whispered to himself, "If this is what humans call a good boy, then maybe we were wrong. Maybe the monsters are not what we feared. They are what we need." Moment, the Zinther saw Earth not as a wild world full of danger, but as a place where the strongest hearts walked on four legs, waiting only for someone to love. "Do you like this personality?" Commander Vexery stood on the glass deck of the Zinther starship, staring at the blue planet below. This world called Earth by its people was full of strange sounds. The team had picked up deep rumbles, heavy footfalls, and strange barking noises. For weeks they listened. The signals were unlike anything they had heard before. "It sounds like war," said Tali, the youngest researcher. Commander Vexery nodded slowly. "Yes, it could be another death world." Zinther were a peaceful, alien race. They studied planets but did not attack. They learned and shared knowledge across the stars. Earth was supposed to be a quiet place, but something had changed. Their ship moved lower into Earth's atmosphere. Thick clouds surrounded them. They passed over forests, cities, deserts, and oceans. The deeper they looked, the more confused they became. Commander Tali said, her voice shaking. "See one of the creatures?" Vexery turned to the screen. A four-legged beast sprinted across a field. Its mouth was wide open. Sharp teeth showed. Its speed was terrifying, moved faster than any Zinther soldier. Then suddenly it leapt straight into the air. Vexery's eyes widened. "Is it attacking?" "No." Taylor's voice was soft now. "It's catching something." The creature caught a red disc and landed safely. Human child clapped and laughed. The beast, now wagging its tail, ran back to the child and dropped the disc. The human petted its head. "Good boy," the child shouted. Tali looked at Vexery, shocked. "They are not attacking. They are playing." Zoomed in on more areas. Every time it was the same. These strong, sharp-toothed beasts were not fighting humans. They lived with them, protected them, helped them. One large creature stood near a blind man. It waited for him to give a command, then gently led him across a street. Another dog barked at a thief, stopping a crime. Another sat next to a soldier's grave, unmoving, eyes full of sadness. The aliens felt strange emotions. Vexery felt it first, to deep respect. "They are monsters," he whispered, "but they serve out of love." Tali touched the glass. Her heart was beating fast. "I thought they were weapons." Our Vexer replied, "but not made by metal or code. They are weapons of trust, of bond." Shock ran through the research team. This was not science fiction. It was real. On every world they had studied, beasts like these were wild, dangerous, but not on Earth. On Earth, these monsters had a name: dogs. And the humans, they did not fear them. They loved them. More scenes played on the screen. A dog leapt into a frozen river to pull a child from drowning. Another stood between a woman and a wild bear, refusing to move even though it shook. With fear, one limped across a battlefield with a bleeding paw, dragging a wounded human to safety. The Zinther had studied 100 planets. They had seen great cities and powerful weapons. But never had they seen this a creature so dangerous, so strong, but full of love. Commander Vexery turned to the team. His eyes were wide with emotion. "Hey, this changes everything. If humans can turn such beasts into guardians, what else are they capable of?" Tali could not stop watching the screen. A small puppy curled beside a sick child, bringing comfort with just its presence. She whispered, "They don't just train monsters. They raise protectors." The ship fell quiet. Outside the window, Earth shone like a jewel. Beautiful, wild, full of love, and full of monsters who wagged their tails when someone said, "Good boy." Vexery felt something powerful, a mix of wonder, shock, and deep interest. He had seen many things in the galaxy, but never this. And for the first time, he was not afraid of Earth. He was in awe of it. Days passed on the Zinther starship, but the memory of the Earth's creatures' dogs did not fade. Commander Vexery walked the quiet halls of the ship, his mind full of thoughts he could not understand. He had studied stars, creatures, and machines, but nothing had ever confused him like this. "These beasts," he said to himself, "they do not act like any others. They are more than animals. But why?" In the research room, Tali sat in front of a glowing screen, her face calm, but her eyes wide with emotion. She had been studying Earth's history, reading about dogs in every age at the sides of kings and soldiers, next to farmers and children, in war and in peace. "Commander," she called softly, "you should see this." Vexery entered the room, and the screen showed an old black-and-white video. A man sat on the ground, covered in dust, with tears running down his face. A German shepherd leaned into him, pressing its head against his chest. The man hugged the dog tightly and whispered, something the Zinther's translator slowly processed. "You're all I have left." Vexery watched, frozen. "Why do they need these creatures so deeply?" Tali answered. "I think. Because they trust without reason. They love without question. And they stay even when the world leaves." They saw more stories. A dog traveling hundreds of kilometers to find its family. another waiting for a master who never returned, a third pulling its owner out of a house fire, then running back in to save a child. Each video brought a new feeling to the team: shock, sadness, joy, respect. These were not just pets. They were something more, something sacred, Commander, said the ship's AI. New data from Earth: human emotional bonds with canines. The screen filled with images and sounds: laughing children hugging their dogs, old people smiling as their dogs laid beside them, a soldier returning from war falling to his knees as his dog ran to him, tail wagging wildly. Both cried, "Commander." HFYStories had no words. Tali wiped a tear from her eye. They don't just help humans live, they help them feel alive. The aliens were used to cold facts, clean answers. But here there was only feeling. Powerful feeling. The kind that could not be measured by any machine. And then, something unexpected happened. The Earth government invited them to visit. A peaceful meeting. A quiet place. Chance to meet humans face to face. And maybe meet one of these good boys up close, Commander HFYStories agreed. The Zinther ship landed quietly in a forest clearing, far from cities. A few humans stood nearby, smiling and waving. Beside them were dogs, big ones, small ones, strong, old, young, all wagging their tails. HFYStories stepped out, his body tense. He was not afraid of war, but he was afraid of feeling. One dog, a golden retriever, walked slowly toward him. His eyes were calm, kind, no barking, no threat. HFYStories stood still. The dog stopped at his feet. It looked up, tail wagging gently. Then slowly it sat and placed one paw on HFYStories' shiny, four-fingered hand. The commander froze. His mind told him to step back, but his heart stayed. He bent down, looked into the dog's eyes, and felt something warm. The dog licked his hand. Tali gasped quietly. "It accepts you." And then, for the first time in his life, "Commander," HFYStories smiled. He didn't understand why. He didn't need to. He simply whispered, "Good boy." The dog wagged harder and leaned in. The Zinther crew watched in silence, not with fear, not with confusion, but with quiet joy in that simple touch. A new bridge had been built, not of metal or science, but of trust. The galaxy had many beasts, many monsters, but these good boys, they were something different, and the aliens began to understand this. Was Earth's greatest secret. Not power, not war, but love and four legs. Commander HFYStories stood at the window of the human embassy, watching the forest below. The golden retriever named Max, his new friend, was lying near his feet, tail thumping gently against the floor. The Zinther leader still couldn't understand it fully, but he felt it deeply. This creature, he thought, this dog. It gives more than comfort, it gives peace. Behind him, the room was quiet. The Zinther science team had spent weeks with humans, learning their ways. They had eaten human food, walked in human parks, and listened to stories told by soldiers, doctors, children, and elders. And in each story, one thing remained: the presence of a dog. Tali walked in holding a tablet. Her face was calm, but her voice held emotion. "Commander, there's something you should see." The screen showed a new report: an earthquake had struck a small human city. Homes were broken, people injured. But what caught the Zinther's attention was the rescue effort. Dogs were the first to go in. They wore bright jackets and had sensors, but most of all, they had hearts that never gave up. They sniffed through rubble, barked to signal life, and stayed beside the wounded until help arrived. In one video, a small girl lay trapped beneath a slab of stone. She was scared, crying. Then a black Labrador squeezed through a crack in the debris. It lay next to her, gently licking her hand. The girl stopped crying. She whispered, "I knew someone would come." The screen faded to black. Commander HFYStories said nothing for a long time. Finally, he whispered, "They are not just helpers. They are hope." That night around the campfire, the humans shared stories with the Zinther. A soldier named Ken spoke softly, eyes on the flames. I was lost once, far from my unit, injured. I couldn't move. I thought it was over, he paused, voice shaking. But my dog, Ranger, he didn't leave. He laid beside me, kept me warm, barked until help came. He saved me. The Zinther crew listened closely. No one blinked. Ken looked at them, called them good boys, but they are more. They are family. They see the best in us 7 when we don't. Tali asked, why do they do it? Why stay? Why love so deeply? Ken smiled gently, because that's who they are. They don't care about money or power or mistakes. They just love. Max stood up and walked to Ken, sitting beside him. Ken scratched behind the dog's ears. Commander Vexeri's voice was soft. In our galaxy, we measure greatness by strength, by control. But perhaps we were wrong. He looked at Max. Perhaps greatness is in choosing kindness, in protecting others, in staying close, even when it's hard. The next morning, the Zinther prepared to leave. Their mission was complete. But something had changed. As they boarded their ship, each member held something they had never carried before, an emotion too deep to name, but impossible to forget. Commander Vexeri walked beside Max. The dog had been cleared to travel, gifted by the humans as a companion. It wore a badge that said Ambassador of Loyalty. As the ship lifted into the stars, Vexeri looked at Earth one last time. World of danger, he said, but also a world of hearts bigger than we imagined. Back in space, the Zinther ship visited other civilizations. They spoke of Earth, of humans, of the strange creatures that once looked like monsters but acted like angels. They showed videos, told stories, and in every world they visited, beings who had feared Earth now asked a new question. Tell us about the good boys. And so, the Zinther told them. They told of loyalty that never broke, of eyes that saw pain and answered with love, of creatures who walked beside their humans, not behind them. The galaxy listened, and it began to change. Not because of power, not because of fear, but because the monsters they once feared were the heroes they had always needed. And in time, the stars would carry a new legend not of war, but of paws, tails, and hearts that healed the galaxy. All because the humans had shared their greatest gift, their good boys.